Hola a todos! Welcome back to MetaFit MetaMind podcast, a podcast in which speakers, leaders, entrepreneurs, and influencers come in and share their journey on how they got into this place in their life, while also normalizing those conversations between both mental and physical health and wellness. I am Carla Rodriguez, your coach and trainer of NLP and host of this podcast, and I created this space to remind you to raise your voice and share your story. And as your guide, I'm here to create a pathway to let go of those limiting chains and use this platform to empower and create awareness, purpose, and expansion in your life. You can follow us on Instagram at MetaFitMetaMind Podcast. You can follow me on my other page at Coach Carlita. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. All right, another episode for you. I'm honestly going with the flow here at the moment, sharing an episode with you at least every other week, and it feels good. The pressure is off to need to post every week, and I do it more intentionally and with honestly with people I truly want to speak with and learn their stories and grow. So yeah, in the last weeks, I've been sharing more and more on my Coach Carlita page, intentional posts, stories, and other things because I honestly have been more working on the back end of the business, making sure I can take care of things that I have been putting off. And I'm really excited about this because I'm learning so much and I'm excited to share with you soon what this will turn into. And as far as like personal stuff, unfortunately, my baby Raiden got a little cough this last week. So my energy's been a little off. It's going to him and making sure he gets better ASAP. And as a result, I too, I don't know if you can hear it, I got a little cough. So it's so interesting how women's bodies work and just how it responds, right? And I'm an enougher, like when it comes to milk, like the breast milk, and I actually got engorged. I know it's probably TMI, but it's just something that I find so interesting and just how humans and women have the ability to create little ones, right? And grow these little ones and take care of them and respond when they are sick. Going back to the back end of the biz, I'm doing some market research for women entrepreneurs and mamapreneurs. So if you want to help me out, fill out the questionnaire in the show notes. I would really appreciate it. And of course, the last thing that I do want to say is I'm hosting the November Hypnosis certification. It's the first cohort that we're having in MetaFit MetaMind Academy. So if you've ever wanted to record yourself and get yourself to sleep, to relax, maybe to be confident on stage, well, this is something for you. That hypnosis is like something that's really like it works. It's something that can help you with connecting to your unconscious, getting out of your head and get stuff done. All right. So if you have any questions, send me a message or anything in Instagram. So remember to share the podcast with people you think would like it, rate it, subscribe to it so you don't miss any of the episodes. And remember, I'm on Apple Podcasts, Google, other podcast platforms that you listen on. So in this episode of MetaFit MetaMind podcast, I spoke with an amazing human being, Hanna Stone. Like I said, I think she's really powerful. She's a human being who is here to show us that we can truly choose to have the life that we want. We can move from old patterns to new things and habits we prefer to have. She's an intuitive chakra coach who combines energy healing and somatic guidance, and she specializes in empowering women to reclaim their authentic power and purpose. She's on a mission to guide you on a journey of your healing, your self discovery, so you can live in a harmonious place with your soul's true essence, and honestly, to become a radiant channel for your divine energy. Anyway, there's a lot, and we talk about this. So it's a powerful story, it's a powerful journey. So enjoy the episode.
All right. Thank you so much for coming back to MetaFit MetaMind podcast. My name is Carla Rodriguez, and today I have a very, very special guest with me, Hanna Stone. Thank you so much, Hanna, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more. And we did an intro call. I always like to meet people before, but I like to be surprised. So I'm really excited for what you have to share with us and your wisdom and your insights and everything to inspire others. And so, with that being said, the first question that I like to ask is, who is Hanna?
Hmm, that's a deep question. Yeah, so the way that I see Hannah is a like it's a body, it's beyond a body, right? But it's like I feel like there's a something with choosing this body and this, I call it like a tag,
Uh-huh.
and in this lifetime, and just like being able to be here on this earth and be able to kind of like show up in a way that, fulfill my purpose and have fun and heal and have my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you asked me that question a while ago, I would start kind of like by telling everything that I had to go through to be, but I feel like it's really hard for me to identify with like things that I've been through now.
Mm-hmm.
Being on the healing journey for a while, so it's like really hard for me to identify with like different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Hannah is a strong woman. I feel like there's a lot of wisdom, a lot of power, a lot of authentic power, a lot of experiences that she went through in her life to be able to come to the truth and share that with the world and go deeper.
I love that. And so, since, I really love that you said, I no longer identify with that person, which is something that I truly connect with as well, because as we are moving along, we are this current identity at the moment, and our experiences have still been our experiences, and we were that person at the time. And so there's probably been a lot of growth. There's probably been a lot of, like, as you said, a lot of experiences, gaining the power that you have now, this beyond this realm type of thing and person that I think you and I can get into, I think, with talking about this, right? Is just going beyond this that we currently see. And so share that story or that journey with us that has led you to this point and you and where we're at now.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting because I'm looking back and I'm sometimes like, what the fuck? Like, what's the life that I chose to myself? It's kind of crazy. And then it just kind of now it really makes sense that
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through all of these things to, there's like almost like this feeling of like, okay, you have to be there, you have to get there
Mm-hmm.
to in order for you to really fulfill your purpose.
Yeah.
So I would just kind of start by saying that I was born and raised in Israel in a cult, and I grew up with a family of 11 siblings. So it's me, I'm the middle one, so five
Mm-hmm.
older than me, five younger than me.
Oh, interesting.
It's
Uh,
like a sandwich. It's like a
yeah.
heart attack burger,
You're
more
like
like,
right at the center.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Which which comes with being the black sheep of the family.
Mhm.
Yeah, we grew up in a house where my parents became religious.
Uh-huh.
So it's always there was this thing where they have to kind of prove themselves to the society that we grew up in, because we grew up in a very closed city in Israel that's kind of no one goes in and out. So there's no TV, no radio, no music. I mean, only
Wow.
specific music, and you have to dress a certain way, like long sleeves, you have to cover your collarbones, you have
Mhm.
to, as a married woman, you have to cover your hair, and
Oh, interesting.
you don't talk to men. Like men and women are separated from age, I'd say 3. And
Okay.
so there was not a lot of space for us to be who we are and play and just explore as kids.
Mhm.
Because there was a lot of things, if not everything really. I always heard like, it's forbidden, it's not allowed. If you do this, you go to hell. So it was very much
Mhm.
fear-based religion. So yeah, so the experience was very, my dad was more like he was just there. I don't feel like he was there for good or for bad. He was just kind of like there. He was more, the
The
men in that
provider.
culture. No, so no,
No.
it's really interesting. The men
Oh,
in that
interesting.
culture, yeah, the
Yeah.
men in that culture are like sit and study the Bible, or like just going into the religious, study,
Okay.
all that. And the women are the ones that's providing, the ones that's taking care of the kids, the one that's doing
Wow.
everything.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting. That's so different than what I would assume someone from, and this is me literally not knowing, is like, so in my mind, right? And thinking about religion, I think of the what we all, I guess, know. The guy is the provider, the woman takes care of the household and the kids, and it's kind of this, like, I guess, 50 style, but it's not. It's just human beings, right? But that's so different.
Yeah, it is really
Yeah.
different. The women there, the programming of that society, that the women there are like basically the way I experience it, like it's like the last, like not important. The men are
Mm,
important. It's important for the men to be able to sit and study the Bible and doing that type of work. So the women serve as pretty much like servant, like
uh-huh.
kind of bad to say, but like it's like, yeah, it's like they're serving the men so they can do their thing.
Yeah, that's the
That's
experience that
that's
everyone
the
has
culture.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so how long was it till you like something must have come to your sights that was like, whoa, that's different. That's something that I actually connect with. Like, how old were you? When did you decide like, this is where I come from and I have to go in this direction now?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because I feel like it's always kind of been there. I always
Mm-hmm.
been like a free spirit, even though I actually couldn't really say it, but
Yeah.
or know it as a little girl. But I remember myself being in first grade, and everybody gets their prayer book and excited about that. And I remember just me like folding the papers and just like kind of like acting as if I'm doing it, but I'm not really feeling.
Yeah.
Or another thing, just like, for example, we weren't allowed to eat like dairy after meat. It's like you have
Okay.
to wait for 6 hours. It's like there's so many rules. But this one, I just remember me just like kind of eat chocolate, like when
Uh-huh.
no one knows, and just like, oh, I don't care. It
You were
doesn't
a
apply
little
to me. I
rebel.
think
As
exactly.
you said, the black sheep, right?
Yeah, so I feel like it was kind of it's something, it feels like I was kind of born with that. It was kind of
Mhm,
like ingrained in my system that's like, oh, I'm just gonna do whatever I wanted. But there was a
mhm.
lot of friction with
Yeah.
especially with my mom, because I was the rebel. I just wanted to do whatever I wanted to do, and she
Mm,
was like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. So there was
mhm.
a lot
And
of fights with that.
yeah, so you were a little empowered girl at the time and having to go through those challenges. So when did you decide I gotta leave? I love my family because I'm sure you do, but I gotta love myself too in
Yeah,
a
no,
in a different way.
yeah, I love how you put it. I think it's great. Yeah, it's because it is true. I mean, like I had to, I mean, there was a lot of layers to me loving myself and honoring myself. And I feel like I'm still feeling
Hmm.
it, there's so
Yeah.
many layers. But I remember when I was 14, so I had to go to high school, and my mom and I really didn't get along. Like that was
Yeah.
like really
And
like
you were still in Israel?
yeah, of
Hmm.
course. Yeah. I only moved to the US like later when I was 21.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when I was 14, I was like, okay, I don't want to be here in this house. And she was like, we don't want you here. And it was like, I mean, it was a whole thing, and it
Mm,
was a process, of course. But basically, the idea is like, okay, I don't want to be here. I don't want you here. Perfect, good. And, find a different place. But,
mhm,
in the beginning, for the first 2.5 years, I was in dorms or boarding schools
mhm,
where I stayed in the place, where you go to school there, but you also stay to sleep there. But it also was very, very religious. And every year it was a little bit less
mhm.
religious, like, until I was like, okay, this whole thing is just not for me. And then I decided to move to my grandparents' house, which they were a little bit less, they were more traditional.
Yeah. Yeah. And so all of this, situation happened, and then you moved to the US. You say you were 21
Yeah,
when
so
you moved this
after,
way. How
well, I
did
was in
you
the
like to me it's like this seem you make it seem so like yeah, it just happened this way and then it just happened this way and
I
then this
know.
happened because I think of course like you said in the beginning you're in a different place now in your life. You're no longer that. That's an experience that you went through. And what had to go through your mind for you to say, like, I'm freaking moving? And, I'm sure you had to figure that part out.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, when I always knew that I'm not gonna stay in Israel, I just didn't connect with, I didn't feel belong. Let's put it like
Mhm.
that. And it makes sense because I came from a cult, and then
Mhm.
never felt belong. And then I went to the army also in Israel for
Oh,
two
I was
years.
gonna ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's mandatory there.
Mhm.
Although, for women from my culture, it's a huge no-no, not like even for men. But I was like, no, I want to be like a normal person in Israel, because it was way after I left my parents' house, so I could
Okay.
that decision.
Mhm.
So I decided to go. I was there for 2 years. It was actually a really good experience for me. I
Mhm.
felt like, after not having a frame for so long, it was really good for me to have a frame and have like a system, and someone
Yeah,
that
some
cared
kind of
about me.
structure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you're a badass. I always think like, and this is just like a question and maybe opinion that I have too, and this is nothing to do, but I have to say it is like in other countries, people are mandated or told go into the military, and I think it's 2 years. I watch a lot of K-dramas too, and I know that they also have to serve military. But aside from that, is like I think it's really cool and scary, but at the same time maybe empowering. And the fact that it gives you structure, which I think in the US we probably need some structure, right, to do well in life. And that's something that I've learned from my husband, because he was a military member. And I'm more free flow. I'm like, I need some structure, yo. So I think that's really badass and like empowering that you decided to do that for yourself, even though in your specific culture, like it was something frowned upon. So I think that's like really amazing and powerful about you, like about you.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. That's it feels good to hear. It's yeah, definitely. I mean, I knew that I'm not gonna stay after the army because I didn't feel like belong to the country, but the army was really helpful for me, and having a commander who truly cared about me, almost like a father, and just being able to thrive and have the discipline and like, learn all these, like, see the country that I grew up in that I
Yeah.
haven't seen before, and just meet regular people, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so you finished the military service for 2 years. You had like these new guides that they probably taught you so many things. You got to see more of the world. And then what? Like, what happened at that moment that you had grown to that place? What was going on in Hannah's head at that moment in time in your life to say, okay, I am fucking powerful. I've done the military. I've seen more of the world, of Israel specifically here, right? Now, what's next for me?
It's really interesting because when you say I'm fucking powerful, it's like I don't think I felt this way at that time at all. I feel like
No.
everything was just on auto mode. It's just like
Yeah.
was things just happen, and like you said, like
Yeah.
it was nothing. It's just like was my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I left my parents' house when I was 14. That was nothing. I left Israel and came to the US with $30 in my pocket. That was
Yeah.
nothing. It was not a big deal. It's just like. And
Yeah.
I think it's a part of it was because I was so disconnected from myself. I was
Mhm.
so dissociated, like, and I was
Yeah.
so like living in a different plane or something. It's just like
Yeah.
not
Just
really
seeing
here.
the third person there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was actually, I mean, I think the first time I'm actually noticing it this way, that it was actually really helpful for me to be dissociated because it really helped me to do all these things like it's nothing. And I
Mhm.
know it sounds, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of ways, there's endless ways to
Yeah.
approach anything, but for me, for my journey, it
Mhm.
was kind of helpful. It was really painful when I had to kind of reconnect, which we'll probably get later to
Mhm.
that, but yeah, I mean, to me it was like, okay, I have two sisters in the US. My dad is from America originally.
Oh, okay.
I have the citizenship. I can just go and go there. It's pretty easy. I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay here in Israel for 2 years. I'm gonna save some money and then I'm gonna fly. But then something else happened where
Mhm.
there was a company, it's like an Israeli company that they're hiring people that have like American citizenship. So they were offering to pay for my flight and have me come
Oh,
here.
yeah.
But yeah, so I went, to work on they were in Arizona. I went
Yeah.
to work in Arizona. I was there for like a month and then I was just like, this is just not working
You're
for
like,
me.
not for me.
Great people, but it's like really
Yeah.
hardcore sell. So
Yeah.
I just decided to, yeah.
As
So
you
then,
said before, you were a free spirit as a kid.
yeah, yeah, that was a very strong statement for me since I
Mhm.
was, I was very little.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, I was it there. I tried that for a month and then I was like, okay, this is not working for me. I can't do it. So I decided to take a bus to Vegas where I had two
Yeah.
sisters at the time.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I just from there started working there as a server and just,
Yeah.
slowly kind of built, I stayed with my sister for 4 months because again, I didn't make much money in that place. So
Yeah.
I needed, to catch up on, to get settled.
Mhm.
I started working as a server, and then in 2018, I decided to do personal training
Mm.
certification and nutrition. So that's
Yeah.
when I started doing that.
Yeah. So you like were you always healthy as far as like your habits, or did this come from the military? Because sometimes, people get into it because we were heavy. I'm talking personal here, right? And so I'm like, I gotta change something. Other people are just more naturally. like I would say gifted. And then other people, maybe it's culturally, it's something how they've grown up. Like, how did you find that after, not having, only maybe having 30 bucks in your pocket,
Yeah. So I was definitely the chubbiest kid out of the 11 kids in my family. So
Uh-huh.
that was like one thing. That was like the first seed that started there. And
Mhm.
then in the second year of the military, I went to visit my sister and my brother-in-law in the US just for a
Okay.
quick month visit, and they were eating really healthy.
Yeah.
So it kind of got me into it, of just the eating part. And so I went back to Israel and I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna start eating healthy. And then
Yeah.
slowly it kind of went into working out and
Yeah.
started working out. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I was doing it anyways. And
Yeah.
I just really got into it. So by the time I moved to the US, I
Yeah.
was very passionate about it, but I was still struggling. Like it was really hard for me to lose the weight. I felt
Mhm.
like I was eating healthy, but I was eating way too much. I was struggling with emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, restrictive diets. I mean, you name it, like
All the
any
things.
all the
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, this fad diet, that fad diet. So
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
you did that, and so now you're here, right? It's been what, like 4 years since you started, you got your certificate as a coach and everything. So, but now what are you doing now that, like, because you and I spoke, and you're very more like spiritually led as well. We talk unconscious, right? We talk about how a lot of our experiences in the past just can either dictate if we let it or not, like how we move forward. So, how has that been? What have you learned along the path to be this Hannah now?
Yeah. So I got my certificate actually like 7 years ago, and I was working at gyms after that. And, I think my first opening was when COVID happened. So when COVID happened, I had to start working for myself because I closed
Hmm.
the gym. But then
Yeah.
also parallel to that, I also actually traveled to Israel. It was the first time that I went back to Israel. And there was something there that happened
Uh-huh.
with a guy that really kind of broke me and put me into pieces on
Mm,
the floor. And when I came back to the US, when I was at Vegas, in Vegas at the time, I was like, okay, I can't really go any lower from here. I have to go
yeah.
here. And I was realizing how much I was so disconnected from myself, so dissociated, so
Mm-hmm.
like I was like a robot, like an
Yeah.
automaton, like totally numb,
Yeah.
no feeling anything. So I started working with like a somatic coach,
Mm,
did a lot of somatic work for 3.5 years, and it went pretty deep, like really going into
yeah.
the body. And that's where I really started went into, first of all, becoming aware to the fact that I was emotionally eating, and all the relationship I had
Mm-hmm.
with food, and then really going into this process and just deepening and deepening and deepening. And then at some point I started getting involved with like plant medicine,
Yeah.
where I just went way deeper into my journey, and it just like opened a whole new world.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was like almost 2 years ago that I had my big first spiritual awakening,
Mm-hmm.
where I could see who I am,
Yeah.
which is just light, and I could just see it
Yay.
right here in my soul. And and then a few months after, I had my like I don't know if you heard Kundalini awakening,
Uh-huh.
where I could really see who I am in my core, why I came here. I mean, it was all just like in
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
place. And it actually all started from someone that triggered me in that place.
Interesting.
And it was just like a portal, right? Like
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I started, so I guess through the journey that I was doing all this healing work, I started to really get into the chakras. There's
Mm-hmm.
the energy centers in the body.
Yeah. Tell us a
And
little bit about that.
yeah, I would love to. I mean, I always say, let me talk about chakras my
Do
entire
it.
life. This is why I'm here. This is the thing for me. So yeah, I started by really, I just feel so fascinated by it, and something just draw me into that. I was
Mhm.
really curious about it. So I was reading books about it, listening to lots of YouTube videos about it, just learned a lot. And then at some point I felt like I could just kind of have a sense of it, almost
Mhm.
like intuitively. I could feel like when
Mhm.
someone talks to me, and like they're gonna talk and tell me whatever thing that they're going through in their lives, I can see the visuals of the energy centers of their chakras
Yeah.
of what's happening. So it's
Yeah.
like, and it's very complex. It's like there's a lot that can happen.
Yeah.
Um, but basically, I want to explain, because sometimes it sounds like very woo-woo to people. What is it, like energy? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But really, the way I like to bring the chakras into this world is in a very embodied way, like
Mhm.
really translating into our physical body. And
Mhm.
also, we really work with things such as negative relationship with food, negative
Mhm.
body image, addictions, stress, anxiety, negative relationship with money,
Yeah.
self-worth, all of the things that are, expression, communication, all of
Yeah.
the things that are kind of like in our everyday life. The way
Yeah.
I look at it, everything starts from energy.
Mhm.
Everything starts from energy. So the way I basically work is like, so basically like regular, no offense to regular talk therapy. I think it's amazing for, a lot of people, but it's, to me, a lot of times it's kind of staying in the mental plane, like it's just like in the
Yeah.
mental, in the brain.
I'm with
And
you.
basically what we're doing is we're going deeper into the emotional body, to the physical body, all the way into the energetic body, and really work straight with the roots of the
Mhm.
thing. So that's something that I hear repeatedly from my clients, is like really going into the root, to
Yeah.
the root, and just looking at the root and understanding it. And so the way I like to do it is like working with our bodies and like really find what's happening in our body and like start to develop a relationship with it
Yeah.
and to know it and get intimate with it.
I love this. I love this. Yeah, and like we could do a whole like live or something on something like this because this is so interesting to me because what you're explaining is something that I do very closely with NLP, with hypnosis as well, how a lot of times the problem really isn't the problem. There's an underlying root to your freaking problem. Oh,
Sim-
I can't make money. Okay, well, let's figure that out. But let's get out of our conscious space that we have, our logical brain. I've said this before, but I remember elementary school, middle school, I think, my teachers would say, "Put your thinking cap on," right? It was that logical brain. And over the years, since I've gone through my changes as well, I tell people, especially during hypnosis sessions, it's like, all right, yo, it's time to take the thinking cap off and let's just have the space to receive information that you are wanting to be led towards or that you're wanting to receive. So I love that you say that it's to the deep, deep. It goes beyond this. It goes to another level and another level because it's just way deeper than what we can visually and consciously see.
Yeah. And I love, we talked about it a little bit. I think what you're doing with the hypnosis and the NLP, it's so freaking important today, and going into those places that people don't know why I have all these like stress, anxiety, all these things happening to me. But then it's like, okay, because we have to go deeper. And if we just stay just talking about it, it's not really. So the way I like to really see it is like, instead of fixing a symptom, because we have all these different symptoms,
Yeah.
emotional eating, stress, anxiety, all these different things, we, instead of fixing the symptom, we're going into the root cause and we heal it. We get to know it, we heal it. And it's very, at least for me in my work, it feels very gentle,
Hmm.
very loving. And I think it's the same thing for you, because this is kind of like this, the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
it's
really.
for us it's intuitive, I think, to like get it. But if any of you that are listening, you're like, what? Conscious? I need to be logical. It needs to make sense. Like, why am I gonna go? It's trust me, it's not always there's a lot of science behind this, that there's a lot of research around this. This is not something that's new. It's something that people have been working with for many, many, many years. And it's just we're now more aware of it, right? We've woken up to these tools, these things that we didn't understand before. And also, the fact that Hannah and I are talking about this is because we're in a space where we were ready to accept this information for us, right? It was time for us to step into this of helping others and it just be guides for others to
Yeah.
like you said, let's not just look at the symptom. Let's look way below that. So I love that. And so through
Yeah.
this process, Hannah, and through your experience, what's that correlation for you, or how has that been between the mental and the physical health? And even the spiritual health, of course.
Yeah, so for me, I was very, very, very much like hustle, hustle, like very, like I have to figure it out. I have to do this right. I have to I mean, I call it like very masculine energy, where I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, I have to work hard to get to where I want to get to in life. And there's always that chase, and it's very external, and it's very exhausting, and it's very like, oh, let me and I mean, I think where that shift happened for me was where I started tapping into my body and tapping into, and again, I was working out for years. I was a fitness and nutrition coach, but let me tell you, a lot of people in those spaces are not connected to their body, and it's very, there's a lot of agenda behind it, even if some of them are not even conscious of it, but like there's a lot of things that's happening that's more like I have to go, and especially in the fitness industry, that's like I have to go and get it and fix myself and change myself. So there was a shift for me that happened, that coming from a place of like I have to fix myself and change myself, or fear of gaining weight, or fear of getting sick, that's where I was for many years. And the shift was, to me, coming from a place of I actually love myself, I love my body, I honor myself, I respect myself, and this is why I'm going to move my body. And when I move my body, I'm going to be in my body fully. So that's kind of like one area. And then, you know, with business, it was another area. And then, you know, it was just with relationships, you know, it's just like it was really hard for me to like date men, because I was very much like in my masculine energy all the time. It's like kind of like very I always said, I don't understand. I'm going to all these dates, and I feel like men are just so intimidated by me. Of course they're going to be intimidated by me. I was just coming
very,
with all like,
you know, without you knowing, you were just very powerful. But talking about how, like, and this is just something that literally just my light bulb turned on. It's you grew up in a culture that the woman would be in charge of pretty much everything. So, in a way, the female was already in a, weirdly enough, in a masculine energy, even though she was taking care of her partner, you know? So, of course, it doesn't surprise me that you're probably really great at the masculine energy.
yeah. And it was a light bulb for me when you just shared that. So thank you for that. But
Yeah.
it's also like the thing with that also, that it's kind of like, it's also that they're also in the background, like they're not important.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like really like, it's like I'm also having this masculine energy, but it's also all the program that it's like, you know, women are just not important. And it's like everything that comes with that. And I think as a society, we have like a very masculine dominant, like for a lot of women, are in the masculine, and of course men.
Yeah.
And people are just not connected to their feminine energy.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it was really coming down to my body and my heart, and connect with my body and my heart. And then I was actually able to include my mind in it. So it's like almost like my mind has its own world.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was started connected, it's like there was some connection that I started making from my heart into my mind. That it, to me, it came from like bottom to up.
Bottom up.
But I know
Yeah.
people are having different experiences with that. It can be all
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, but yeah, and you said it's your experience, and it's so interesting how when you finally open up your heart, you're ready to connect, like that just it just becomes, I think the puzzles just start to, like, the puzzle pieces start to fit together. And so I want to know, like, what is it that you are excited about? What's a goal that you have for you or your business that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so I'm actually well, right now I'm taking one-on-one clients in person, and also actually most of my clients are actually online. But my goal is to I am on YouTube, so my goal is to
Cool.
create like a courses, like mini
Mm-hmm.
courses for each energy center, for each chakra, that it's just going to be focused on that energy center, but not all of them, especially the lower three ones, because that's
Yeah.
when we do a lot of shadow work, a lot of inner child work. So of course we have shadow up here too, but
Yeah.
this is where we have like our physical experiences from
Yeah.
this physical realm.
So, like, closer to the core.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
closest to kind of like a lot of childhood stuff,
Mm-hmm.
generational stuff, even
Yeah.
past life, and society programming are in the lower ones.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of like the thing that I personally like to focus on. And but yeah, I'm also starting to do workshops here in Austin.
Oh, nice.
And it's really interesting because I was just thinking about it the other day. I used to have so many goals, and I wanted to, I had this like dream big and just like want to make millions and all this. And I feel like I really want to just build a home with my partner, and
Yeah.
I just want to have family. And I feel like, I still obviously came here to do this work and to help others and to go
Mm-hmm.
to the depth of myself and being able to reflect that to others. But but really I feel like I don't have this like more. Like I don't feel like that,
Yeah.
oh, I want to be it's not really my goal. And it's like so weird because in this society, it's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You don't,
But it's
it's like weird.
shifted, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of changes that you've gone through, and of course, I'm sure at some point you're like, I want to make $1 million or whatever, but you're in a different place in your life, and that's okay.
Yeah, well, I was there actually. I was definitely in a place where I was like, I want to make millions, but to me now, I feel like it's just for me, it's more about service to the
Mhm.
world, service to people. I want to
I
be
love
able
it.
to help as many people as possible, and like whatever comes with that is whatever comes with that. Like it's just so I think this is a big thing for me. Like it's really. I used to be so much like, oh, I need more. And now it feels like, oh, I just want to really be able, I would love to keep taking one-on-one clients forever because I
Yeah.
freaking love doing that. It's like
Yeah.
magic. I really love it. But I
Mhm.
also want to engage like in live. I also want to do like small groups of processes that's really deep. And also have this like courses. And I love to speak about my experiences. So going on YouTube and share all
Yeah.
experiences. So this is kind of like how I see this going. But again, we're always evolving, so we never know. Like you said earlier,
Yeah.
like things are shifting and changing, and we're always kind of changing with the journey.
Yeah.
So
And I love that you said that because evolve is like one of my like favorite words. That's why I say that I'm not just a life coach. I like to tell people that I'm a personal evolution coach because we're all evolving. The way I
mhm.
see it is that in the world is constantly evolving, right? We went through 2020. We as humans, our physical body had to evolve to get through that. And our mind has not kept up completely. So, right? There was a lot of fear and there was a lot of people stuck in that. And so I'm like, well, I'm just here as a guide helping you to evolve along with not just your physical body, but your mental state, your spiritual space. So I love that you said that, the spiritual. So let me ask you this. I don't think I shared this with you when we did our previous call, but what's something, a lesson, or a key piece that has helped you in your life that you would like to share with someone that wants to learn from you?
Well, there's so many
Um,
things.
yeah.
But I think there's something that's kind of like repeating and kind of for everybody in the world. And I would say triggers. And I would love
Mm,
to kind of share my view on triggers. Like
yeah.
honest triggers for me being my biggest portals. And I only feel like all I need to do is to be aware that I'm getting triggered. If I'm aware that I'm getting triggered, because sometimes there's such like pattern response that's happening that's so like automatic that we don't even notice that we're getting triggered. But if I can notice that I'm getting triggered, that has been absolutely transformational thing for me to work with, and that I work with my clients as well. So it's like there's like 6 steps that I like, and of course it may be a little bit different to some people, and like maybe some steps are, but anyway, so first step is we get triggered.
Mm-hmm.
The trigger is the first step. So all we need to do at that point is just to be aware that we're getting triggered. The
Yeah.
second step is there's a trigger response. Usually it's fight, flight, or freeze. And just to kind of like track the steps is really interesting. The third step is that's going to be actually the actual wound, the actual trauma, the wound that's sitting behind the trigger. So the trigger, the way I look at triggers, it's like a distraction for what's actually happening, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not about what triggered us. It's like something way deeper that probably starts from childhood. So that's going to be the third piece. And then the fourth step is usually there's an emotion that is linked to the trauma that needs to be processed. So it can be anything from anger, shame, or, like grief or whatever it may be. So we need to move that energy. We need to feel that emotion to let it process, because emotions are energy emotions, and
Mm-hmm.
she just automatically just wants to move like naturally. And then usually what I found, so those can be a little bit different for some people. So the fifth step is usually there's laughter, because I'm really thinking about like the process and like what I went through, and like, oh my God, we thing when
Yeah.
we have a trauma and then we operate from this place, and we just kind of like the way I like to view things. It's like just like laughter. And the last piece for me is like the ability to see more, the ability to see beyond the physical. And this is also kind of like how I work with the chakras too, because usually it starts the trigger and the wound from childhood trauma or whatever it may be, it's something that's more in the lower chakras, and then the ability to see more, it's coming up to the upper chakras. So I always say, like, we have to start from the lower chakra. When we do work with the chakras, it's really important to start with the lower ones, and then the upper ones kind of opens up automatically in a lot of cases. Where a lot of people, especially in the spiritual community, they just want to be up here in the upper chakras, and that's just not sustainable, and it can cause a lot of issues. There's
Yeah.
when the lower ones are not in place. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I think
so
triggers.
amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you're listening to this or watching this, because I do put this on YouTube, if you're listening or watching, rewind this, go back, start to notice these things. And I think, as you said, the most important thing is the awareness around that trigger. Like, what caused this trigger? And this is something I tell people is, don't worry about the why. The why will get you somewhere, but what caused it? How did this start, right? And then you'll be able to do the other steps. But go back, rewind this or whatever, and listen to Hanna again, because that was super powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that, Hanna. And if people wanted to work with you, watch your YouTube, learn from you, where can they find you?
So my Instagram and YouTube, it's the Chakras Queen. So
Ooh.
the chakras with S at the end,
Mhm.
or Hanna Stone on
Mhm.
YouTube. And yeah, I also have my website on my YouTube, and my website on my Instagram bio. So
Awesome.
just
And I'll
find it.
put all the links in the show notes as well. So thank you so much, Hanna, for all that you shared, the wisdom, the journey that you took us on with your life, and how you said that that's not something that you felt, but how powerful, what a powerful being that you are, and guide and person of service in this world, that, if you ever think that you can't get out of something, you can if you really want to and will it to. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, I think I could have spoken with Hanna all day, but here are a few things I learned. The identity that you have now is no longer the one who you identified with like a few weeks ago, a year ago. Of course, that's of your choosing. For example, the moment that I chose to say I'm a coach, I am a coach, I can take that on as an identity. If I were to stop doing that, I would probably at some point stop identifying with it. The other thing I learned is that sometimes you do go through some tough stuff, and we have to, in order to come out on the other side stronger, growing, to be able to be guides for others if you choose to, of course. And it's not always something that feels comfortable, but we're created to do something powerful. You're created to do something powerful. And just as Hanna discovered her purpose, trust me, you can too. So remember that this November we're hosting the first hypnosis certification training, and this is the first cohort. And I could say, just for now, right, even say maybe a beta cohort. So register now, because this course is not going to be $800 forever. There's a lot of value in it. So if you haven't done so already, please share, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. It will help me so much to pop up on other platforms. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at MetaFitMetaMind Podcast, on Facebook. Just do the things, okay? If you have any questions on anything, on the offerings, on the questionnaires, on my market research, let me know. So thank you so much for listening to this episode up to this point. I am Carla Rodriguez. This is MetaFit MetaMind Podcast, where we are normalizing conversations that we would have never had. Until next time.